Hello, this is Catherine at I Know I Need to Stop Talking. Hello, lovelies. How's everybody doing? I mean, has summer been and gone, right? Is this it? Have we done summer now? Was that like those 2 days when I was whinging that it was too bloody hot? It's awful, isn't it? I mean, the rain yesterday was ridiculous. It was superb. I went to pick Jamie up from school yesterday afternoon, and as always is the way, the weather times itself pretty much perfectly with the school run. And so I arrived to collect him. He'd obviously done that typical teenager thing of you suggest that they maybe consider wearing a coat and they look at you like you shat on their foot. So I was like, okay, on your head be it. And we got up to, I got up to the school and I pulled up. And you know the last scene of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, where I think we've covered this before, that Andie MacDowell is annoying in that scene. And I have nothing against Andie MacDowell per se. But when she says, "Is it raining?" I hadn't noticed. Of course you'd noticed it, you silly bint. You're wet through to your pants. And I arrived to pick Jamie up from school, and he, genuinely not exaggerating, was as soaking wet as Hugh Grant and Andie MacDowell are in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. He's like standing there by the side of the road, his white shirt completely see-through, like gets in the car, he's like, you know, shaking a bit, absolutely soaking wet. I obviously can't prevent myself from going, "Did you think at any point about a coat?" And his response to me was, "Well, what use is a coat going to be when it's raining this much?" And you know, and you're just like, I'm just going to have to leave it there. So yeah, I think maybe we've had summer now. We're now into autumn, or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe the sun will come out. But goodness me, isn't it a wonderful thing to be British and to have the weather to discuss? There's never a shortage of conversation. I've had a really lovely day today. It's Saturday, and great revelation. So this is very exciting breaking news. I don't know if you're ready for this. I've moved my Ocado slot. I know, right? It's like a revelation. So long-time listeners will know that every week there's been like some kind of Mexican standoff between me and Ocado, who had a regular slot with us pretty much scheduled to coincide with the time that I usually record my podcast. And this went on for weeks with me stopping halfway through or delaying, and would they come or could I start and record it before they rocked up? And then suddenly in a moment of genius, which, you know, really shows you the state of my inner mind, I went, "Oh, I could change the time of that slot, couldn't I?" I know, right? It's like a genius. This is watching a genius at work here. So Ocado now come 7 till 8 on a Saturday night. This podcast will be well done and all put to bed by then. Although I don't put it past them just to really mess with my mind, to phone me in a minute and go, "Actually, we're running a bit early. Is it okay if we come a bit early?" Such is the power of Ocado. But yeah, so Saturday afternoon, but I've had a really lovely day. Beth had football, obviously, so I took her to that, and it was a bit of a drive. So she went off to do football, and we couldn't watch today's session. So I had a really nice walk in the woods, which was really lovely. And I picked her up, and then we went for a pub lunch. God, the novelty's not worn off yet, has it? Doing normal things, walking into a normal pub with normal people and sitting down at a normal table and eating a normal meal that I have not fucking cooked. Oh, the joy. And it was one of those days, because I'm sure we've all been to restaurants when our children are being little shits and it's a deeply unpleasant experience, but the stars kind of aligned today, and Beth was amazing company, and actually, you know, we had a really nice conversation, and it's so many gazillion times better now they're this age. And you know, if your kids are much younger and you are loving that stage of parenting, then as I've said before, all power to you. We all find our time in parenting, right? And what you find easy breezy, I might find hell on legs, and vice versa. I mean, lots of people love to do merchant when it comes to parenting. People love to go to me, "Oh, you just wait until they're slightly older. Just you wait until they really hit the teenage years." And I always have to sit on my hands and bite my tongue and refrain from saying, I've had 2 stepkids go through that before. You know, it could be horrendous, but there's this all kind of like, I don't know, I think we probably do it to get that self-validation thing. But as I say, who's to say that you know, you finding one stage of parenting easy doesn't mean that it wasn't hard for me, and vice versa, is the point that I am very ineloquently trying to make there. I've literally got no idea where I was going with this sentence or train of thought even slightly. No, that's right. Restaurants, like, I used to hate going and eating out. I've got like flashbacks to going and eating out when my children were little, because I just think, I think it's great for kids to go to a restaurant, and I think it's great for kids to get used to eating out. But I also didn't ever want to be in a restaurant when kids were eating out, particularly my own children. That's a terrible thing to confess, isn't it? And don't think that if you find yourself in a restaurant with me that I will be sitting there thinking evil thoughts as your child is smearing food and feces up the wall. Well, I might be thinking a few evil thoughts if that's the case. But I completely get children have to learn how to behave in that kind of environment. But God, I just felt like I was constantly chasing them round restaurants or negotiating with them to stay the fuck in their high chair. Oh God, high chair. So glad I'm past the high chair years. Or then memorably, once we went to a restaurant, me and my mum and my sister with Jamie when he was very little, and he was beautifully behaved, except halfway through the meal, he went and sat underneath the table and took what appeared to be the world's largest dump from the stench that permeated the restaurant. And even now, I just want to go back to all of the people in that restaurant and say, I'm so sorry, it was awful, it was unforgivable. But yeah, but now, like, you can actually take them and you can actually have conversations without needing to resort to, strapping an iPad to their face, which I completely understand why parents do that, because there were definitely times when screen time was the only thing between me and going and basically grabbing and pouring myself a pint of gin from behind the bar. So, as I say, no judgment here. But yeah, it's so nice that you can go and just have we had a genuinely really nice conversation, watched a bit of the football. Yay, plucky, hungry, don't worry, this isn't going to become a football blog. I know that football is not everybody's thing, but for those who like me, really enjoy football, the Euros so far has been a bit of a joy. It has been a little bit of a joy. So yes, that was lovely today, but the novelty of doing normal things, I mean, I feel shattered now, right? Because we went out this morning, it was quite a long drive, she did some football, went for a meal. I mean, I feel like I've crammed a week's activities into a day. Does anybody else find this, like in this kind of, not post-COVID world, but slightly post-lockdown world, doing more than one activity in a day? I'm like, oh my goodness, how will I fit this in? I'll need to have a little lie down, this is exhausting. I need to get a grip, I think, probably. So that was very exciting. Other great excitement this week. Now, I should say up front, I don't think today's podcast is going to be one for the squeamish. So if you are the kind of person who has to turn away when Animal Hospital, God, Animal Hospital, do you remember Animal Hospital? That was great. It's just a shame about Rolf Harris ruining it for everybody. Very selfish. But if you're the kind of person who has to turn away at the squeamish parts, maybe, possibly today's podcast might not be for you. And if that's the case, that is absolutely fine. All power to you. But on the subject of being squeamish, or rather not, I've been doing the Zoe symptom study for COVID all this year, which for anybody who doesn't know is basically an academic study being run to study, well, COVID, I suppose. I mean, the clues in the name, right? I don't know why it's called Zoe. I wonder if there's a lady called Zoe who went, right, screw this, I'm going to name this after me. And if you did, Zoe, all power to you. But because I've been doing this study, I got a notification to say that as part of extending the study, they are running antibody tests on people to see if they have got antibodies, which they can apparently tell the difference between antibodies from the virus and antibodies from a vaccine, which blows my fucking mind. I didn't think I'd have any antibodies because I don't think I've had COVID, touch wood. But I thought, well, I love a test. Oh, I love a medical test, me. And earlier on, I'd been randomly selected through the NHS to do an antibody test, so I kind of had assumed that it would be more of the same. So for anybody who thinks that it might be more of the same, and that basically you had to get a little droplet of blood out the end of your finger and squeeze it onto what looked like a pregnancy test. Anyone thinking, oh, I fancy doing one of these antibody tests, what does it involve? Substantially more than one drop of blood. So it arrived, and I'm not exaggerating, I opened this test and a test tube fell out. A test tube, okay, a short test tube, but still a test tube. And the instructions basically said, fill this test tube up with your blood. There was a bit more detail than that. I mean, it was, it wasn't left quite that open-ended. And I'm about as unsqueamish as you get. So I was in my absolute fucking element. I was like a pig in shit. I got back from taking Beth to football on Wednesday night. It had arrived. I said, right, I'm going into the kitchen to do my antibody test. And I explained to Mr. I Know I Need to Stop Talking and Jamie and Beth what it involved. They all looked like they might throw up. I said to the kids, do you want to come and watch? This is going to be so interesting. This is going to be fascinating. Real chance to experience medical science in action. And they're like, no, you weirdo. What's wrong with you? So I was like, all right, fine. Well, your loss. So yeah, you get one of the little finger pricky things you get when you're donating blood, and you shove that into the end of your finger. And then your finger bleeds and you get the blood into the tube. And I felt really proud because they said, try and get blood up to the 600 mark. If you can't, 400's fine. I was fucking overflowing the 600 mark. And then it gets to the point where you're suddenly like, okay, I've got enough blood. Shit, how do I stop this thing? It's a real flaw, isn't it, with the blood circulation system. They need a tap. They definitely need a tap or a stopcock. There were neither of those things. So pressure and hand up in the air did it. But yeah, and then I sealed up my blood into the special envelope and really hoped that it didn't leak, or else that was going to give some poor postal worker the world's worst surprise. And then I sent it off, and today I got a test telling me I had no antibodies, and which I didn't expect to have. But isn't that amazing? Isn't science amazing? Like, obviously this pandemic's been fucking awful, but the science stuff has been very cool. Very cool. So yeah, that was my great excitement. I'm not exaggerating. One of my best Wednesday nights for ages. It was so much fun. So much fun. So yeah, if you're thinking about doing one of those antibody tests and you get the call up to do that, I hope that's helpful in kind of defining which side of the animal hospital decision do you fall on it. Are you completely there to see Tiddles go through his vasectomy? No, do they give cats vasectomies? I don't mean vasectomies, do I? What's it called? Spaying for female cats. What do they call it? Well, whatever it is, the spay vasectomy thing, when they take your balls off. Castration, there we go. God, from COVID test to castration in one easy sentence. I bet you don't get that on any other podcast now. Come on. The other great excitement this week, which clearly you all know about because literally every person, I think, in the known universe messaged me to tell me. It was so funny. Beth and I were driving back we'd been at football, and we were driving back. And my phone, I was using my phone for sat-nav, and all of a sudden my phone started pinging, and I'm not exaggerating, it was like bing, 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 like constant. Beth was like, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. And so obviously I was driving, so I said to her, well, have a look. And she was like, well, nobody's phoned you. And I thought, well, it can't be anything urgent. If there was a problem, someone would have called me. So we got home and I opened my phone, and it was a little bit like when Celebrity Flaps happened, and I genuinely couldn't use my phone for about 3 days because of the volume of notifications. I love you all, but it feels like there was not a single person out there who knows me or follows the blog when I'm going to need to tag her in this. And of course, CBeebies Biff and Chip live action television series is shortly upon us, apparently. I mean, fucking hell. Once again, I'm so glad my kids are older. Although, then I think, can it be any worse than the vacuous Topsy and Tim? And for those who are oldish like me and remember the lovely books by Joy and someone Adamson. That's right, isn't it? God, aren't brains weird? They keep random pieces of information. But Joy Adamson and your husband, I'm sorry, Mr. Adamson, I've forgotten your name, whoever you are. They were such lovely... Oh no, then those aren't the people who wrote the books, are they? Those are the mum and dad in the story. Oh, it's been a long day, can you tell? Anyway, Topsy and Tim, that TV show was an abomination. Absolute abomination. The only thing that I could empathise with was that the mother, Joy, clearly... Or now I'm going, did she write the book? So after this, I'm going to have to Google and find out. This is going to play on my mind. Whoever she is, the mum, she always looked like she just kept her blood supply of gin topped up just enough. She always looked slightly dead behind the eyes. And that was basically how I felt for the first 5 years of parenting. So I did have some empathy with that. But yeah, live action Biff and Chip. So I'm not going to watch it. I hope one of you at least, or maybe all 190,000 of you who felt like it tagged me into the CBeebies post, have a watch. Let me know what you think. Will they too refer to Floppy as an absolute fucking liability? Because if not, that is not an accurate representation of the books. I hope at least we get oh Floppy, no Floppy, Floppy. God, they were. I say they were bad books. They're not bad books at all. Actually, I've got a real soft spot in my heart for Biff and Chip because actually, I think they are intentionally, genuinely quite funny at times, and so much better than the shit we had to read when I was at school. Did anybody else read? Actually, Tim and Tobias was quite good, wasn't it? That was what you got to when you kind of graduated past Billy Blue Hat and name beginning with R, Red Hats, and yeah, people with names and hats in different colours. I should describe books more often. I feel I have a strong career ahead of me. What I also loved was somebody commented on the Biff and Chip post that I didn't put up and said, oh my goodness, up until now, I didn't realise that Biff and Chip were a series of books. I thought this was your actual life. And I don't think this person is alone. The number of people who comment on stuff occasionally when I'm writing about, I don't know, real life and like go, oh, but where was the dog? There is no dog. I don't have a dog. Floppy is not my dog. Floppy is a fictional character in a book. Also, people have asked me, oh, what about your other child? You never mention them. What other child? Well, you've got 3, haven't you? Biff, Chip and Kipper. No, this is not real life. Although if it was real life, you can 100% bet that I would absolutely be Mrs. May for the win. And in fact, in my previous life as a professional actor, I've learned that in life there is pretty much nothing in the world that can't be improved by putting on a play. So yeah, all power to Mrs. May. Jamie's been an absolute hero this week. Lots of you will have seen the blog post that I shared last night, and it was just a very casual moment. He was heading off to the shop, and I just said to him, Jamie, I said, can you pick me up some tampons when you go to the shop? He didn't bat an eyelid. He was like, yeah, no problem. Do you want the green ones or the orange ones? And I know that shouldn't be like a massive deal, right? But it kind of is, isn't it? And it certainly feels like certainly when I was younger, boys definitely didn't appear to be particularly cool about periods like that. And, like all parents, I spend pretty much 24/7 doubting whether I'm getting it right and being almost certain that I'm getting most of it wrong. And indeed, if my children were here right now, they'd probably be going, yes, she does get most of it wrong. But you try and do the right thing, right? And just little moments like that, and you feel like, yeah, maybe I might just be getting something right. He's a hero. He's always liked tampons. That sounds weird, doesn't it? He has always liked tampons. He's always had a bit of a thing for them. He used to, when he was really little, I'd quite often come up and find him when he was supposed to be asleep. He'd gone into the bathroom and taken out the box of tampons, and he'd be sat there on the floor counting them. Well, I say counting them. He could count to 2 at that point, so it was slightly primitive counting. 1, 2, 1, 2. It's like the world's worst edition of countdown. But yeah, he used to love to count them. He also used to like to pocket them and take them to nursery with him, where they would be found by his nursery workers and put in a pile to bring home later, like the worst kind of drug dealer. I got tampons for all the kids. Yeah, he did enjoy. He's always clearly had a thing for tampons. I mean, despite his sanguineness, he didn't entirely understand. So he's like, yeah, green or orange. What do the green and the orange mean? Are they flavours? Yes, I'm shoving flavoured cotton up my vagina. I say that. We obviously these days have the joys of scented panty liners, don't we? What the fuck? There was ever any proof that the world was going to pot, scented panty liners is it. I once went to the toilet of someone who will remain nameless, and I went to the toilet and discovered that they had coconut scented toilet paper. And prior to that toilet visit, I had quite enjoyed a Bounty bar from time to time, and I don't think I've eaten a Bounty bar since, and I will leave you to draw your own conclusions. Goodness, that's a terrible mental image, isn't it? But yeah, flavoured, scented stuff to go near your bits and pieces, no, very, very, very unnecessary. So yeah, Jamie was like, oh, green and orange, are they flavours? And I was like, well, there's Matchmaker chocolates you can get, like mint and orange, so that will make sure that none of us ever eat Matchmaker's chocolates ever again, won't it? Good, excellent, glad I've achieved. But maybe it's a family trait, because one of my favourite childhood memories was when I was about 13. My mum was very poorly in bed, and she would usually do the weekly family shop, so my dad said, no bother, I'll go. And so she said, okay, well, I'm going to write you a list. So she wrote him a list, and he set off confidently to the supermarket, went down the various aisles, bought the various things on the list, and then he got to the item sanitary protection. He was like, no problem, I know where that is. Went to the aisle, and of course you go to the sanitary protection aisle. It's like a pick and mix dispenser for vaginas. Who knew one vagina needed that much choice? Not me, and certainly not my dad, who did what any sane person would definitely not have done at that point, but he made the decision that he was, in the absence of knowing which one was right, basically was going to buy one of everything. And I still have these visions of him coming back and opening the front door with 2 full carrier bags full of every tampon and towel you can imagine. I don't think we bought sanitary protection for about the next year, but yay, bravo, my dad, equally cool and sanguine on the period front. I mean, periods are such knobs. I just think it seems very unreasonable that we should all be expected to get on with life like everything was totally normal when half the world is falling out of your front bottom. These days of science, I can do some incredible medical experiment in my kitchen. Why the fuck have we not got a better way? And I don't think I think we're better at talking about it than ever we were, but I don't think we talk about it enough in terms of, I'm really lucky, I don't have particularly problematical periods, and they're still shit. I still don't look forward to my period coming like, woohoo, period time. I shall now put on my white hot pants and rollerblade around while walking my dog, which no person, period adverts, make me angry. Very early on in the lifetime of this blog, I decided that I had taken against period adverts. And I decided that I was going to pitch my new idea for sanitary protection, which was fanny plasters. Let's be honest, that is what a sanitary towel is, isn't it? It's a fanny plaster. Let's call a spade a spade. And yeah, that was my great idea that I was going to pitch to the advertising companies, and I never did because life got in the way. But one day, if you see fanny plasters on a shelf near you, you heard it here first, okay? You heard it here first. But yeah, we talk about them in the abstract, but we don't talk about, you know, the way it sometimes feels like your uterus might be going to turn itself inside out, like some kind of Derren Brown mind trick, or like the pain, you know, the agonising pain, which is like, you know, just unreasonable, really unreasonable. And clots. We don't talk about clots. We talk about things like flow and like period adverts have blue liquid in. What the fuck? My period has never been blue in my life. Am I doing this wrong? But yeah, clots, one of my favourite stories. And this was somebody on the blog. This was my friend in inverted commas, because actually if this was my story, I would own this because I think it's amazing. But this person had commented that she'd gone to a public toilet and there was a queue outside the cubicles, and she went into the toilet and she removed her tampon, and as she removed her tampon, a clot flew under the cubicle door and across the floor into the waiting queue of people. And I guess you just have to style it out, don't you? Oh my goodness, how did that get here? But we don't talk about this kind of shit, right? It's all like blue liquid and white hot pants and rollerblading, and that is like the experience of no period in the history of any person I know who's ever had a period ever. You know, clots are grim, but they happen. I mean, I say they're grim. They're not as bad as the post-birth clots. For anybody who's given birth, enjoying your breakfast there while you're listening to this. Good, excellent. Yeah, post-birth clots. My friend who I'd done NCT classes with, she gave birth the day before me. And she texted me a couple of days later while we were both in hospital to say that something the size of a hamster had just come out of her. And I remember thinking, oh, she's exaggerating. Until I got home a couple of days later, my very own hamster emerged out of me as well. I was walking down the stairs. I was like, what the fuck? Am I having another baby? What is this? It's practically the size of a baby. And then, I mean, midwives, you're just heroes, aren't you? So I kind of, first baby, I had no idea. Was this normal? Was this a normal part of the miracle of childbirth? What a joy. And so I phoned my midwife and she was like, yeah, no problem. Don't worry. I'm coming around to do your visit in a bit. I'll have a look at it then. And I kind of did a double take and went, pardon? She went, yeah, just put it on one side. I'll have a look at it then, make sure there's no retained products. However much we pay midwives, it's not enough. She duly arrived, and usually when somebody comes to your house, you offer them like a cup of tea, something to eat. Do you like sit down? I'm like, would you like to see my clot? And she's in there with her knife and fork or whatever it was, cutting up. I mean, yeah, you're heroes, absolute heroes, midwives, you really are. But yeah, clots are a deeply unpleasant part of periods. The reverse, I suppose, it always makes me smile whenever I think about periods. I had a person that I knew, and she used to always describe the sensation of speaking to a certain small percentage of society who were deeply irritating and slightly grating, like the experience of pulling a dry tampon out of oneself, which is such an accurate description, it almost hurts, although probably still not as much as pulling a dry tampon out of yourself. Are we into too much information territory? Yeah, I don't think so. I think there's more that we can do. Surely we haven't lost every single listener just yet. I mean, there's no other podcast covering clots, right? So, you know, maybe I found my niche. And why is sanitary protection so noisy? Honestly, you go to the toilet to change your tampon and it sounds like you've got some family... I feel like I'm tucking into a family-sized bag of kettle chips. It's like... In fact, it would probably be less noisy if I was tucking into a family bag of kettle chips. It's ridiculous. There must be a way of making this packaging quieter. And not only is it loud, it's so brightly coloured. We've all done the walk across the office, right? And we know that we are modern women who are experiencing our modern periods, and we should not need to hide that. But neither do I want to look like the guy who flags down fucking aeroplanes with glow sticks. I mean, that's like these tampon packets. Bright neon yellow and green and blue and purple. My eyes. There must be a better way. There must be a better way. Although it has improved, though. It has got better, hasn't it, since... I remember when I first started my periods, before I started, and my mum gave me a belt with some loops hanging off it. And to this day, because thankfully sanitary towels with adhesive backing by then were a thing, to this day, I'm nearly 40, I don't know what the belt with the loops was for. Maybe I'll never know. But yeah, obviously the advantage of having sanitary towels with adhesive backing, although the downside of those, as anybody who's ever used a sanitary towel will have experienced, that hell when you're in a public place and suddenly realise that your pube has become attached to the adhesive backing, and you have to stand there in public as you give yourself an impromptu bikini wax. Oh, that's a particularly hellish kind of pain, is that? I mean, again, there must be a better way. Obviously, there is a better way, and I discovered it last year, and I won't wax on lyrical about it for ages because I've done that before, but period pants for the uninitiated are a fucking godsend. I had them advertised to me on some social media advert. I was like, whatever, they won't work, but I'm intrigued. I'll try a pair. They're like magic. They magic your period away, and it is unbelievable. And while, yes, I do still use tampons one day a month, hence Jamie's trip to the corner shop, the rest of the time, a set of period pants and that's done, and it's amazing and magical, and it just goes. And the inventors of the period pants, you're amazing. And never once have they scalped my pubic region inadvertently, which is an added bonus. But I think they're amazing for me, but I also think for this next generation of kids coming through to have something like that. I mean, when I was 10 when I got my periods, and I was the first girl in my class, I was so embarrassed. There was no sense of excitement at all. I was so embarrassed. I was mortified. I didn't want anybody to know. I wore 2 pairs of pants when I had my period, one on top of the other, so nobody would see that I had my period. And God, my heart is breaking a little bit for 10-year-old me, wearing her 2 pairs of pants, trying to hide that she had a period. We had compulsory swimming lessons once a week at my school, having to come up with an excuse every 4 weeks as to why I wasn't going swimming. Oh, I'm so sad, 10-year-old me, but it does get better. Period pants will be a thing, and one day you will have period pants, and they will even deal with clots. So hold on in there, 10-year-old me. It's gonna get better. I mean, there'll be a load of other shit to deal with, but you will at least have period pants. So pros and cons. Although maybe on the period front, maybe the approach that I should have taken is Beth's, because Beth, if I ever tried to talk to her about, periods and the fact that one day she'll have a period, her response is no. Not I don't want to, or stop talking to me about that. Her response is just no. So maybe that was the option. If I just said no to periods, maybe I wouldn't have them. And obviously they're very necessary and important and a great celebration of our fertility, but they're also fucking shit, aren't they? And then apparently the menopause is even worse. Woo, yeah, what it is to be a woman. But we do need to talk about periods more. I do think it's an important thing to do. In fact, maybe this is this week's business idea. This is this week's Dragon's Den pitch. Maybe I should produce a range of t-shirts that we can all wear on like key days of our periods. So there could be one that's like, my period's not here yet, but I am grumpy as fuck. Or my period will be here tomorrow. You can tell by the massive fuck off spot in the middle of my forehead. Seriously, I'm nearly 40. Why am I still getting premenstrual spots? This seems very unreasonable. Or my period's here now. It's gushing, I've hit bridesmaid's quote, it's gushing out of me like lava, and a clot just flew across the cubicle and hit another woman in the face. God, I hope that didn't happen to anybody. That would be quite the period experience. Yeah, I think Beth maybe had it right. Periods, no. So I hope that nobody was eating or drinking or indeed trying to stay on the right side of decency through any part of that podcast. But I think it's important we talk about this kind of stuff, and bring these things out into the open, and ensure that nobody ever thinks it would be a good idea to go rollerblading in white hot pants on their period, because much like Beth, the answer is just no. Have amazing weeks. Look after yourselves. I hope you get to do something lovely. I hope the fucking sun comes out, or maybe it's just going to pee down miserably all week. But whatever the weather's doing, I hope you are doing something lovely. Look after yourselves. Stay safe. I will see you all next week. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.